Hey everyone, here at skillcapped we spend all day long thinking about, discussing, coaching, and playing League of Legends. Specifically, I've seen and coached a lot of jungle gameplay recently, and every single game the players all made the exact same mistake. And no, it's not the kind of mistake that's obvious and gets you killed. It's pretty subtle, but fixing it will completely take over games. To fully explain it, we need to talk about how you need to think about the game. As a jungler, how do you decide what to do next? The first step is that you need to understand how much each thing you can do is worth, and then you weigh that against the risk of doing it. At any given point, you can do a number of different things. There is no one way to win a game of League of Legends. However, there are definitely more consistent ways. Let's take for example this clip here. We start at red buff versus an Udyr. If we pause right now, what options are you picking between? What would you visualize or think about? When you're making a decision here, you need to understand what all of your options are so that you can weigh them against each other. If you tunnel on only a few or write things off before really thinking it through, you're for sure going to miss some game-winning plays. This is just how my brain visualizes this decision. We could from this point invade his top side, gank top, gank mid, do our Raptors, do our Krugs, do Wolves, Blue, or Gromp, or invade enemy bot side or gank bottom. Well, that's a lot of stuff, so we need to start filtering out the noise. These are just the decisions that are clearly bad or have too much risk to be worth it. Think about jungling in League as a game of options, and whoever has more of them will usually win. If we go to bot, we hand Udyr more options than before. He now has access to our whole top side, his top side, mid lane, and top lane. Whereas if we went to any of the options on the top side of the map, we can contest all of those things. The main issue with this is that even though we might get a kill in bot lane, if it doesn't work, what could we do afterwards? This is how you assess the risk of each play. If Udyr is good, he takes most of the things that we can do off of the map. And because he started his blue, that's another thing that we could have done gone. From this point, we're running out of things to do, and eventually we'll probably reach the dreaded point that I like to call a dead end. When you run out of options, you lose the ability to positively impact the game. So we should basically weigh this option as the best case scenario of a double kill to the worst case of getting nothing and then getting our whole topside taken and top laner killed. Obviously, judging how likely each scenario is to happen is a whole different skill in itself, but not really what this video is about. Anyways, we probably can now say that the option to gank bot is noise. We can also eliminate invading his bot side because he's started blue, and it'll likely be gone by the time we get there. Rinse and repeat this kind of thought process for each option until you get the number of things down to your top 3 or 4. This may seem super overwhelming to do in the middle of a game, but as you practice more and more, this gets almost instantaneous. Just think about how hard it was to learn to tie your shoe, and now you don't even think about it at all. Pattern recognition, just like muscle memory for your brain, is very real, and when you organize your decisions like this and really think it through, they get faster and faster each time. Now that we have a list, if you start doing your first and most valuable option, but something happens to make it really difficult, we still know exactly what we can do next. And if that option is impossible by then, we go to the next option, and the next, and so on. This way you never waste any time and you're always doing something proactive. After each new choice, we have to keep updating our list with new things to do. You have to try and look into the future a bit to see any potential dead ends, but as long as you can think of 3 to 4 things to do at any given point that you'd be happy with, you're probably in a pretty good spot. When that number starts shrinking, it's a good sign to look at the replay later and figure out if you could have selected something different that would have opened up more choices for you. It's not important right now that you selected the perfect options in the perfect order. After all, you're bound to make mistakes that help you organize that list in your head better for later. In fact, getting things wrong and getting punished for them is what this video is all about. When you organize your thoughts like this, you make a very conscious decision that you can then attribute to a result for later. The main issue is that junglers tend to autopilot a lot. They don't think about all of their options and they don't explore new things and get very stuck with one particular way of thinking. When something goes wrong, they don't remember the entire list of decisions they made to get to that point, and they definitely don't remember what alternatives they could have done. Think about this process like calibrating your own personal autopilot. When you mess up, you reprogram it to want to do the next option on your list instead of the thing you used to have at number 1. The result of doing this kind of thought process over many years is what allowed me to calibrate my decision-making list up to a challenger level. So what exactly was the big mistake that everyone makes? Well, now that you understand this thought process, let's address that. Most players don't adapt enough. They think of things they can do in huge sweeping actions instead of little steps. Instead of thinking of, I'm going to do red, blue, gromp, and look, break it up into red, then look, decide on your blue, look, decide on their next step, and so on. You have to update your list more frequently so that you don't miss things. This tiny distinction may not seem like much, but the difference is massive. If you lock yourself into a play, you don't use the information around you to adapt to your situation. Don't write anything off as impossible. You need to consider every single play. Let's just use this game as an example. Why did we decide to pause on this screen? What piece of information did we just gather to figure out what to do next? I clicked on Graves to check for his buff durations. This confirms which camp he did first and also what camps he did around him. I check his CS a bit later and now formulate an idea of his first clear. Seeing this, what potential options are you considering now? We've got a few things to think about, so let's just mark them on our map. We could do Raptors, our Krugs, go to top crab, gank top, gank mid, fight for bot crab, invade, or dive bottom. Even though a lot of these things seem difficult right now, you have to keep them all in mind because things will constantly change and open up new paths for you. At the moment, Raptors seems like the best play since we really don't have enough information yet to try any of the other things. Once we see that Graves is tanking a ton of minion damage, things change. The danger level that we once had in going to bot crab is mostly gone now, but had we committed to Raptors right away, we would probably miss the chance to get ahead. You should always look for plays using what I like to call the in to out method. This essentially just means look for plays that are further away from safety first, since you'll probably know all the easy ones by heart and the first things you want to write off are the really difficult ones. If we said to apply that here, what plays would you look for first? Things that should be coming to mind are things like invades, dives, ganks, neutral objectives like crabs, and finally your own jungle. If the really aggressive play like deep invading or diving looks impossible, that's okay, but you need to make a conscious decision that they're too risky to try, not just ignoring them because you failed them in the past or feel safer farming your own camps. Right away, I don't see Vlad on the map, so I'm a bit scared to try and invade, and I know Graves' Gromp won't respawn until around 4 or 5 anyways because I figured out his first clear, so I kill time on Crab while considering those options. Once he hasn't shown for a while, I assume that he recalled and started on Gromp while glancing to bottom every once in a while to check for potential dive. I end up getting Graves' entire respawn bot side, the bot crab, and the bot dive, because I was checking for the aggressive play the entire time. When my mid laner died, I didn't write off a ton of plays and stick to my own jungle. I still looked to pressure the map and really take over the game. I also didn't just go from bot crab back to my own jungle. You can often just get away with so much more than what you think you can, and it's important to really try to push this to the limit and skirt the line of almost too much but not enough to get punished. This is how you learn the game faster. If you just do the safe play all the time and don't try to get ahead, you'll hardly be punished for it, and it becomes difficult to learn. Just to prove my point even more, Graves had full info that I was bottom and didn't look to do any aggressive options on the top side of the map, when he had already ganked top earlier. I come back to my topside jungle to get my wolves and Gromp, which definitely should have been taken away as a response to me taking his jungle. Had I not taken his Gromp and wolves and had he taken mine, I would have been out of the game. Now it's the opposite. If he was thinking in a similar way to me, he would have been able to even the playing field and take over this matchup. It's really Graves' favorite in the first place, but I end up getting extremely fed and winning the game anyways. Again, I want to reiterate that it's not important to get every option correct from now on, but it is important that you start thinking like this so that you can train your brain in a way that gets you ahead by default. 99% of jungling is just, are you in the right place at the right time? And doing this will open doors for you that were never even seen before. By the way, we just want to make sure you all know where this guide comes from. Skillcapped. It's the best place to be if you actually want to improve at League of Legends. We have the best and the most League of Legends guides on the internet that really do work. The best part is you don't have to take our word for it. If you don't climb 5 divisions while actively using Skillcapped, you can claim a full refund. So give it a shot and get the rank you've always wanted for Season 11. Check us out right after this. And until next time, happy jungling.